Okay.
All right. Okay. So Saturdays in the fall, it's a great experience for everyone. There's tons of college football fans flocking to their universities and their alma maters to come watch their favorite football teams play. And it's a huge business. It's millions of dollars generated in revenue by universities just because of their college football programs. There's an article written by Taylor Branch about profit in college athletics, and he says football teams at Texas, Florida, Georgia, Michigan, and Penn State each earn between $40 to $80 million each year in revenue for their athletics program. And last year alone, the SEC, which is just the conference, the Southeastern Conference, is the conference that A&M and Alabama are in. They generated over $1 billion worth of profit just fed into the schools in the SEC. And so that's, it's a huge business. And so it's come a long ways from what college athletics originally was. College athletics started out as, according to the USA Today, they say college sports started out as a way for students to engage in their favorite sport, like as an extracurricular activity, kind of like maybe like art class or like intramurals are today. And so that's how they started out as, and now it's like a huge business, generating profit for the universities and making tons of money for the coaches. Most coaches nowadays are making millions of dollars. And so there's an argument now that if coaches are making millions of dollars and athletic directors are making millions of dollars, why aren't players making millions of dollars? And players are just, getting their scholarship, their school paid for, getting their books paid for, which seems a lot, but there's a lot of people saying, okay, so the school's making millions of dollars, why should the players see some of that money? And there's even I don't know how much of this was true, but they said Johnny Manziel made by himself $34 million for A&M last year. And so that's just the type of money these players are making their universities. And so they're always saying, why don't the players see that? And so today I'm going to persuade y'all or tell y'all why I don't think they should be paid. I think the way the NCAA's rules are now are good. There might be a couple changes that I think would be beneficial, but for the most part, I don't think paying them is the right answer. First off, if you look at the players who would be paid through these rules, it would only be players like D1 football and basketball players. No other sports program or no other division can afford to pay their players. No other team is actually even making money. Football is one of the only profitable sports at most schools. And so that's fact one. And those people don't even need the money that most because they're all on full ride scholarships. The other players, like soccer players, baseball players, they're all on partial scholarships, barely getting by, like they can't even afford to pay their own or give their own players full rides, as opposed to football and basketball players. They're getting full rides, they're getting, their housing paid for, their books paid for, they're getting, meal plans, anything like that, anything they want. And so with that, there are things that aren't paid for with those big D1 programs, and that's stuff like, like kids trying to go home over spring break, they can't afford it, or like maybe they want their parents to come up and watch a game, they can't afford tickets. And so there's things like that that are like arguing for players to be paid so they can afford things like that, but I don't think that's the way to do it. Maybe if we had to pay, if there's a stipend or a fund for those students, like if they had a real need, they could use some of that money to get their family up to a game or something like that, but I don't think paying them as salary is the right way to do it. Because if we paid them as salary, I feel like the schools who could pay salaries and the schools who couldn't pay salaries it would create a huge mismatch on the field. Like they couldn't compete with each other. Because the schools who could pay salaries, they would attract all the best players, because all the best players want the money. And so they wouldn't go to the schools that can't pay it. And so it would create like two different leagues. Create a league where there's tons of good players in a handful of teams, and then the rest of the schools who can't pay their players and just have subpar athletes. And so I think that would ruin college athletics. It would create more of like a business, like an NFL sort of thing, which the part about college athletics which makes it most interesting is that there's tons of teams and they all can compete with each other. There's hundreds of teams that all can compete. Like a couple of years ago, Michigan and Appalachian State. Appalachian State's a school that's no one's ever heard of. There's maybe a couple thousand kids at the school, and they play Michigan on their home turf in the big house, and they beat them there on Michigan's home turf, and it was like the huge, biggest upset in college football history. And there's all sorts of stories like that happen in college football. And if we were to pay the players, I don't think we'd see as many as exciting games as that. And so that's what I got for you all today. Thanks for coming. I hope you all were persuaded by my speech. Thanks.